Okay, I'm so excited. We have finally reached Trig. So this is our first lesson in Trig, so 6.1. I'm sorry that this photocopy's all goobered up, but it is what it is. So what we're going to focus on right now is some vocabulary. So I think it's important to understand these terms because some of them are a little bit different than what you talked about in geometry. So the first thing is an angle. And, you know, I think we think of an angle as just something that looks like this, right? But in Trig, this is actually a rotation. So this rotation, what happens is we have an initial side of our graph, and our initial side is always going to be the positive, P-O-S-I-T-I, positive x-axis. And so our initial side would be this. This would be the initial side of my angle. Okay, and what happens is we go through this rotation, so my angle is going to rotate like this, and we end up with what we will call here the terminal side. So this is the terminal side, and think of it as it rotates to where it ends. So the terminal side is it's going to rotate to the ending, and that's what I have here on this blue one. So let me just make a statement here. This is my initial. Now, one thing that happens when we deal with angles is this would be an angle, and let's just say, for example, this is about halfway. So we would say that this is a 45-degree angle. Okay. Now, this angle, the way that I have written it right here, would be in standard position. So standard position means we have the x-axis is my initial, and I'm going to rotate to the terminal side. So if I look at this angle here, I've rotated to 45 degrees, but I could start on my initial and I could rotate all the way over here and make this my terminal side, and this angle would be, I don't know, let's just say this is 100 degrees. So as we rotate through, I can rotate to 40, I can rotate to 100, I can keep rotating. In fact, I could rotate all the way around to 360 degrees. Okay, now the other thing that's really important, and I'm going to kind of bust down here to where we see negative angle. When we have a negative angle, the difference between trig and geometry is you would, if I was to draw an angle, let's just say any angle, and I asked you, how do you make this angle negative? Well, you would say in geometry, it would kind of close up on itself, and we couldn't have a negative angle, but that's not the case. So what happens is this means that our rotation goes down. So we can say, if you think about this as a clock, and this is my time, 1, 2, 3, that we are going clockwise. And I know most of you don't even know how to read a clock like this because everything is digital, but if you did, we would say that it goes this direction, it's clockwise. So I still start on my initial side, but as I rotate this direction, this is my new terminal side. And now, let's just say this is in the middle. This angle would be negative 45 degrees. So the only thing that a negative angle tells you is the direction. So the direction is down. Now, the reason why that's important is because pretty soon we're going to get into quadrants, right? So in this one, my terminal angle ends in quadrant 1. And over here I have quadrant 2, and here I have quadrant 3, and over here I would have quadrant 4. So if I look at an angle that was positive 45 degrees in standard position, I'm going to end in quadrant 1. If I want an angle that is negative 45 degrees and negative tells me I go down, I'm going to end in quadrant 4. If we go back to our 100 degrees, if I rotate this direction 100 degrees in the positive, I would end here in quadrant 2. But I could also rotate this direction negative 100 degrees, and I would end over here in quadrant 3. So this black angle right here would be negative 100. So you see that I still have an angle. The angle happens right here, and that angle would be negative 100 degrees. All that's telling me is that I'm going in the negative direction. Okay, so our concept of a vertex is the same. So the vertex is where our initial and terminal angles or lines, sides, terminal sides meet. And in this class, this is almost always going to be right here at the origin, and so we would say that that's going to happen at 0, 0. Okay, now let's talk about this concept of coterminal. So a coterminal angle. So terminal angle, again, this is where my angle is going to end, that rotation ends. And co here means that they're going to be the same. So let's look at this as an example here. If I, let's just say I have an angle right here and that this angle is 30 degrees. So this is my initial side right here, and here's my terminal side that goes this direction. So my angle here is 30 degrees. It's positive, but I don't need to say that it's positive. But I could also go this direction. I could go down, go this direction, and go all the way around, and we would say that this is coterminal to angle negative 330 degrees. If I go 330 degrees, I'm going to end on this line. We know 360 is all the way around the circle, so I would go negative 330 degrees. So these two angles would be coterminal. Another thing that I could do is I could start here, and I could go all the way around one time, and then I could keep going. So if I do that, I know I'm going to end at 30 degrees, but I already went all the way around 360 degrees. So a coterminal angle would be 390 degrees. So if my starting angle is 30, if I go negative, sometimes it'll ask you for a negative coterminal angle and a positive coterminal angle. So a positive coterminal angle just means I go all the way around my circle one time, or 360 degrees, and then I end wherever it is I'm supposed to end. Okay? Let's go ahead and do a little practice. Okay, so all we're doing here is we're sketching these angles that we have in standard position. So I kind of went over this a little bit on the other side, and again, I'm sorry that this photocopy is so awful, but just kind of a little bit of review if we have this. Here is my coordinate plane, and remember we're dealing with a rotation. So as we go in each direction, if I go from here to here, I've created this right angle. So we would say that this is 90 degrees. And if I go all the way over here, I would say this is 180 degrees. And I keep going here, this would be 270 degrees. And I go all the way around my circle, and it's 360 degrees. So what happens is, so I started here at 0. So this point here on this terminal side is 0, where I started. But if I go all the way around the circle, I end up with 360. So as we're looking at these different angles in degrees, we can look at this unit circle and we can see kind of where they would land. So if I look at this first one, it's 100 degrees. So if this is 90 degrees and this is 180 degrees, then my angle starts here at the initial side, and it's going to rotate over here to about 100 degrees. And we don't know exactly. What we care about is, does it look like it's approximately in the right spot? Okay, we're not going to use a protractor or anything like that. All right, so if I look at this next one, I know that this is 180, and I know that this is 270 degrees. So if I want to rotate 250, I start here on the terminal side, and I'm going to rotate all the way around here until I get to 250. So that's what my angle looks like. All right. If I look at 370, I know that if I go all the way around my circle, I've hit 360. So if I go all the way around my circle, I'm going to go around and up just a little bit more. So I start here, I rotate one full rotation plus a little bit more. And you see how I did this? It looks kind of like a snail here as I go all the way around. That is what that looks like. So this value that I have right here, I would say that the whole thing all the way around would be 370 degrees. Okay? Now remember, all this negative tells us is the direction. So my direction on this guy is going to go down. It's going to go clockwise. So my values are going to go backwards as well. So if this is 0, this would be 90 degrees. This would be 180 degrees. So if I'm going this direction, it's like saying this is negative 90, this is negative 180. So if I want to know where that ends, start on my initial side, and I'm going to go this direction to 150 degrees. Negative 150 degrees. Now, the reason why this matters is because if I wanted to look at the coterminal angle, this angle right here is the positive of that, and so this is an angle as well, so this would be the coterminal that ends on this same terminal line. So if I go all the way around and it's 360, then that means that this guy is 210 degrees. So 210 degrees, and it makes sense because I will go this way, it's 180, and this would be 270. So as I go in this direction, and you add up these two angles right here, 150 plus 210, and that's going to give me 360. All right. Again, this negative is giving me my direction, so I'm going this direction, negative 30 degrees. And then here's another one where I have a full rotation. So if I look at this, I know if I go all the way around my circle, I have 360. If I add another 90 to this, this would be negative 450. All right, so what happens is I start here. This is my initial side. I go all the way around, and I'm going to end here, and this is going to be negative 400 degrees. Okay? All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to look at this, and we're going to determine where our terminal side lies. And this is quadrant. This is what it's asking. Which quadrant am I going to end up with? So if I look at this first angle of 50 degrees, I'm going to start here. Remember, this guy is 90, so I'm going this direction. This would be 50 degrees. So if that's 50 degrees, then this is going to end in quadrant 1. Okay? This next one, I'm going to start here. At this point, you should remember that this is 270. I'm going to stop drawing that now. I go all the way around. It's 360. So this is what I have. That's my angle. Now, this can look a little bit confusing, and we're going to talk a lot more about this when we're doing some more work here. The angle here is actually on the outside. It is not this inside. The inside is going to give us something else. This is going to give us a reference angle. We're going to get to that here in a couple days. But when we look at this angle of 335, it's actually this pink rotation that's on the outside. So normally when we look at an angle, if you think about this in geometry, and we're looking at an angle, we care about what's in the inside. But that's not the case here. Super important. Okay, this ends in my fourth quadrant. So 181, remember 180 is my line, so it's going to be just a little bit more. So that is what my angle looks like here. And that's going to end in the third quadrant. Okay, so now I've got my negatives. So here's my initial. Remember, I'm going negative in this direction, so it's going to go this way. And this is negative 200 degrees, which puts me in quadrant 2. Now, even though I'm going backwards, I'm going clockwise, my quadrants don't change. So this is still 1, 2, 3, 4. So that doesn't change. Okay, next one's negative 280. So if you remember, this value right here, if I'm going negative, is 270. So if I go all the way around right here, I'm going to end in this quadrant. So this is negative 280 degrees, and this puts me in quadrant 1. Okay, and then my last one that I have here is negative 80. So negative 80, I'm going this direction. It's almost 90 degrees. And this puts me in quadrant 4. Okay? All right, last little thing here today. So this says determine 2 coterminal angles, one positive and one negative. So I've kind of already identified this for each of the given angles. So if my angle is 100 degrees, what this looks like is I'm going to have an angle. Let me get my color. It's easier to draw this way. My angle is going to look like this, and this is 100 degrees. So it's bigger than my 90 degrees. So if I want a positive coterminal angle, that means I'm going to go all the way around, and then I'm going to pick up on this. So I have 100 plus 360 degrees. So 460 degrees is my positive coterminal angle. Now, if I think about this, my negative angle, I'm going this direction. So what I have here is 360 minus 100. And so this value here is 260 degrees. But remember, I went in the negative, so it's negative 260 degrees. So negative 260 is my coterminal. All right, let me look at this one. What I have here is an angle at 10. So this is 10 degrees. So if I want my positive, I'm going to start at this direction. I'm going to go all the way around and connect up. So 10 plus 360 is 370 degrees. That's my positive. And I'm going to have 10 minus 360, and that's going to be negative 350 degrees. And this would be my negative coterminal. And what that looks like is I start here and I go all the way around, and this would be negative 350 degrees. And I know that this little bit here would make it a full 360. Okay, last one. So here's what I have. Positive angle is going to be right here. This is going to be 40. I'm going to write it a little bit differently this time. I'm going to say 40 plus or minus 360 degrees. So we see that that's what's happening right now. So 40 plus 360 is going to be 400 degrees, and 40 minus 360 is going to be negative 320 degrees. So another way that you can do this is you can just say you've got your angle, in this case it's 40, plus or minus 360, because remember 360 is one full revolution. So I'm going all the way around plus, and this direction I'm going this way, opposite, to make that full 360. Okay, I think you've got some practice problems now.